my first speaker. Her name is Kathy Paminsa, and she has gone from being a divorced single mom to now starting her own successful real estate business. And her story tonight is about her overcoming all of the issues and things she's had to do as a mom and as a woman in order to achieve what she's been able to do. And there's been a lot of hard moments, a lot of vulnerability, and she wants to share her journey with you so that maybe you see something for yourself, that you'll get something, feel less alone. You put your hands together, welcome Kathy.
Welcome, and wow. You know, this really brings me present to dreams really do come true. And I wanted to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your life and being here tonight. It reaffirms to me that you are committed to personal growth, to something higher than yourself. Thank you. And God, I am so nervous to be up here. This is my first time speaking in front of a crowd. However, my commitment to making a difference for each and every one of you is bigger than my fear. So thank you. What a roller coaster has been preparing for today. I had moments of courage, of fear, of thinking to myself, I'm gonna call Brad and quit. I'm not doing this tonight. But I was like, no, I'm committed. This is my life purpose, and I am gonna fulfill on it. And I wanted to thank Brad for who you are and your stand for humanity and putting this together. I acknowledge you for your dedication, your drive, being fearless and courageous, and thank you for inspiring me. And I remember the first time that I actually became clear on my life purpose, and I felt like I was on cloud 9. I'm like, wow, this is what my Creator created me to do, is to spread unconditional love amongst human beings. Wow, amazing. And I remember the voice inside of me calling me into fulfilling on my purpose. And all the time the fear was creeping in, my courage was bigger. And the fear that attempted destroying my dreams, my inner voice, guidance was stronger. My burning desire, my inner divine, my inner drive was determined to reach my goals. Tonight, I will share a story with you of a courageous little dreamer, a woman, as long as she can remember, dreamt of being a wife, a mom, and was discovering all the love she had to give her soulmate, her children, and the entire world. While growing up and dating, all she experienced was the relationship her parents had. She thought it was normal to argue, work yourself to exhaustion, and satisfy the needs of others prior to satisfying your own needs. She was taught that expressing her feelings was bad, that she needed to be strong and not depend on anyone else. Dating through her young adult years, she craved for love, acceptance of a man, acceptance from her parents and her loved ones. Little did she know, she did not love and accept herself. We all know that in order to receive all that we desire, it all starts within us. If you're seeking acceptance, give acceptance. If you're seeking love, give love. If you're seeking kindness, you gotta give more kindness. All that we seek is within us. The little dreamer experienced an unsuccessful first love and a broken heart. After a 1.5 years of healing, she had a 2-year loving relationship with a man named Jerry, who loved her dearly and was crazy about her. She thought Jerry was the one until a 1.5 years into the relationship, she discovered she was not fulfilled. She found fault in Jerry and broke up with him. Being alone for a while cured all the pain and made her stronger. She knew that time heals all pain. Little Dreamer had a few short-term relationships after Jerry, and each one ended the same way, with disappointment, judgment, fights. She questions, what's wrong with me? Am I capable of finding a man who loves me unconditionally? She told herself she would never fully give herself to a man again, as she felt like she did everything possible for each relationship in order for the person to accept and love her. How can anyone love you if you don't love yourself first? She could not bear. I apologize for reading this. She could not bear having heart broken again. She decided next time she would be more careful. She would act differently and ensure she does not make the same mistakes again. All future relationships she had started with love and ended with blame and a heartbreak. No matter how many times she was disappointed, even in the time of depression, and where it seemed like there was no hope, the little voice inside her, her guardian angel, was whispering to her, never give up, little dreamer. She was certain the man she desired and deserved is waiting for her and will come into her life at a time she's ready for a soulmate. While seeing a man named Peter, little dreamer met a man named Jason. And little did she know, he would be the father of her child and her husband. The first time she laid eyes on Jason, she knew there was something different about that man. He stood out from the crowd. There was a special bond, connection, energy between them. Shortly after they met, little dreamer and Jason went out on their first date and have been inseparable since then. Jason adored her, sent her loving text messages, spent every moment with her. They had long conversations. Not all her needs were met. However, that was better than most guys, right? So hey, she figured he must be the one. In her mind, it was magical. It seemed like she was falling in love because of her burning desire to be loved. She settled once again. 3 months into the relationship, Jason was traveling to Indiana for a hockey tournament and asked little dreamer to join him. She was excited, said yes. She would have her love all to herself for 3 full days. Everything in life happens for a reason, and so did this trip. Jason and little dreamer conceived their first son that little dreamer longed for since she was a little girl. God worked his miracle and gave her a baby boy. A baby boy she imagined while dreaming, a little angel named Julian. 6 months into their relationship, the day came. Little dreamer's desire became a reality. She found out she was pregnant. Discovering the news was bittersweet, the happiest and scariest day of her life. Jason and her have been dating for 6 months, and even though she's never met his parents, deep down inside she knew no matter what the future has in store, she would birth her son and love him unconditionally. That same day, little dreamer knew she had to share the news with Jason. She had to be courageous in expressing that she's pregnant and ensuring that Jason knew as soon as possible. He did not receive the blessing as well as she did. She imagined he would tell her he loves her. They would figure it out. And instead, he barely said anything. He cried and asked her, "What am I going to tell my mom?" The next 2 weeks were a blur. Jason barely talked to little dreamer. Feeling scared and alone, she knew that no matter what happens, she would be okay. The burning desire inside of her gave her the courage to follow her heart. Jason eventually came around. Little Dreamer met his parents. They found an apartment together and moved in at the time of when she was 7 months pregnant. All her dreams were becoming a reality. She would finally have a family she longed for. Living with Jason and having a baby was exactly what she wanted. But everything that went on next just seemed like a struggle. The thought of being a mom was fulfilling. However, not being one with the father of her child was painful. There was no connection, oneness, and closeness she desired. Each doctor visit Little Dreamer attended on her own, watching other women receiving love and support from their significant others. She wished Jason wanted to go with her. She wished he was excited for the baby as she was. Even though Little Dreamer experienced a ton of pain, she was strong. The thought of holding her baby boy in her arms gave her all the courage she needed. At the moment, once again, Little Dreamer decided she didn't need anyone, as God gifted her with one of the world's greatest gifts, a little growing miracle inside of her. Every time she thought of her child and the unconditional love she would give and receive gave her courage to express her needs. Jason never took them well, got frustrated, and after a bit of pressure, he would promise to fulfill on his duty as a significant other and as a dad. Jason agreed to attend a doctor visit with Little Dreamer, and the minute they got there, all he could do was complain. Why is it taking so long? Are we out of here yet? He was there physically, however, there was no mental support. Jason's been distant and unsupportive reminder of the pregnancy, which caused Little Dreamer to decide that she didn't need help from him. She would do it all on her own, even though she knew it was going to be challenging. Handling it all on her own wasn't easy. She struggled, cried, and thankfully, the love she had for her child continued to keep her going. Isn't it amazing how much we can handle in a time of pain and sorrow? We are powerful beyond belief, more powerful than we give ourselves credit for or than we can imagine. Your Creator always puts a big why in your life in order to keep you going in a time of pain and sorrow. A purpose that has you jumping out of bed every morning. When Julian was born, Little Dreamer received her dream of being a mom. Life didn't get any easier. Jason never changed or was never supportive. They didn't deliver on the promises he made of waking up at night and taking care of their child. Thankfully, Little Dreamer's boss agreed to give her a 3-month maternity leave. She worked until 9 months of pregnancy and was able to save enough money to support herself and the baby while on maternity leave. With each passing day, the joy of being a mom and love for her son grew. There was a part of her that was blossoming and a part of her that was desiring love. Support and acceptance from Jason slowly, day by day, brought her down and eventually drove her to depression. She desired to be held, to be kissed and accepted. Little Dreamer paid a big price for withholding her feelings and not expressing her needs powerfully. She allowed them to bottle up, and when she felt like she couldn't take it anymore, she blew up. She yelled, and threatening that she would leave. Fights started, and painful words were often exchanged. Every fight, every struggle, she brushed under the rag, as she promised herself that she would do everything in her power to give her son a family. She was determined to change Jason into the man and father she desired him to be, and to become his wife. Little Dreamer manipulated the situation until Jason caved in and bought a ring. Proposed. Proposal wasn't what she wanted, but hey, she took it. Once again, it was what she wanted, but she wasn't satisfied. She accepted it, as the determination to give her son a family was bigger than her needs. Jason was not involved in the wedding planning. Little Dreamer was left to handle it all on her own and her family. She even settled for a dress that she wasn't fulfilled on. She didn't want to be judged by her family and taking too long or being too picky and choosing the right one. Always putting her needs to the side to satisfy the world around her and her audience. Oh, what a price she did pay for not having her needs fulfilled first. So question to the audience, who in the audience can relate to this? Doing everything in your power to satisfy others, yet it never being enough. Would you raise your hands, please? Well, thank you for being honest. I acknowledge and appreciate it. That makes me too, all the time. So while after her troubles in her personal life, Little Dreamer's safe place and outlet was work. Work was a place where she was fulfilled, had an amazing boss, and supportive friends. One of the managers at work organized a softball team that Little Dreamer joined, even though she couldn't even play, nor had any experience. She joined for distraction, for an outlet, just to have something additional to do instead of going home. Playing softball allowed her to forget about her pain and sorrow for the time being. One of her coworkers, who was on her team, confronted her with the fact that she was not happy and asked her why she's getting married. Little Dreamer looked at him like he was a lunatic and made sure that she made him wrong. For even asking her, she told him she's happy, she's marrying the man she loves. She explained that all relationships have issues. She protected herself and her beliefs, not allowing anyone to change her mind, even though deep down inside, she knew the coworker was right. The coworker became her friend over time as they played softball and expressed his interest in her. At first, she told him, "No way, dude, no chance." After a while, he gave her an excessive amount of attention, complimented her, was there for her in a way that Jason never was. She fell for him. Her knees went weak when he unexpectedly kissed her for the first time. She's never felt that with Jason. She desired to be in his presence more than as he fulfilled on her emptiness. Time spent together with the man she loved convinced her Jason was not the man for her, and 2 weeks before the wedding, she expressed she isn't getting married. Was advised by her friend, "It is normal to feel this way. Cold feet, 2 weeks before the wedding. Get married." And the fear of losing her child in a custody battle was greater than fulfilling on her dream. So she went through with the wedding. She found herself standing at the altar in a white, beautiful dress, having all that she ever wanted, and her heart was breaking in pieces. What an unexplainable feeling she had. She had a son. She was getting married. Her family friends were there. Perfect scenario, which seemed like a dream come true. She didn't want it. She didn't want any of it, except for her son. That was the only thing that she desired more than anything in the world. What an unimaginable fear that was. Who knows what fear stands for? Who in the crowd knows what fear stands for? Anyone? Raise your hand if you know what fear stands for. Do you?
False evidence appearing real.
Good job. False evidence appearing real can drive someone to make decisions in spite of their intuition and what is destined for them. Imagine how powerful fear can be if we allow it to take over us. So how many of you can relate to making decisions based on fear versus the love they have for themselves and what they ultimately deserve? Thank you for being honest, you guys. This is why I'm here, to make a difference for every single one of you. To share with you that courage is just one little step away from your fear. Oh boy, she said I do to a man she didn't love nor desire to spend the rest of her life with. All she could think of is being over, of the relationship being over. Then being at home and finding an outlet, a way of getting out of this. The next 6 months were a bigger struggle. Each day she got herself into a deeper hole. She felt like she was drowning in her fears and her insecurities. The day of salvation came at last, the day she decided to act upon her desires. It was a long road, and she had enough. Mother's Day was the last day she spent under the roof with Jason after he promised and didn't celebrate Mother's Day with her and her family. She couldn't believe that the father of her child did not want to spend the day that celebrated her, the hard work and love she dedicated to her family. His decision not to keep this promise was her breaking point. When she returned home after dinner, expressing to Jason that she's moving out and that she would never come back, hearing that drove him to fury. In madness, he laughed in her face and told her she would be back sooner than she left. His anger and mean way of being created enough strength in her to tell him they would never be together again, and she kept her promise. The first 6 months after moving out, the little dreamer had hope. Jason, he would call, that he would change, that he would say, "I'm sorry, I apologize, let's work this out." That never happened. As time passed by, all her and Jason did was fight. The hardest thing she ever had to go through was sending her son to spend time with his dad. She hurt most when she was alone and grew stronger and better in time of loneliness. Even though alone time was painful, it was definitely crucial for her growth. She trusted and had faith that the storm would pass and she would experience an abundance of sunshine in her life. Standing up for herself and fulfilling her needs gave her power. In taking responsibility for her life, she became relentless, learned to stand up for herself, express herself powerfully, even in the face of no agreement. This was never easy. However, she learned a big lesson not to sabotage and sacrifice her needs for somebody else's. Little Dreamer discovered that unconditional love comes within. She now knew that if she wanted to create unconditional love around her, the choice was to unconditionally love herself first. We all know that abundance and peace starts within us. We create it, and we do project it on the world around us. She decided to live her life with courage, to create her life by design, and take daily action steps to have love, wealth, health, success, and happiness in her life. To fulfill on her divine purpose that she was created to fulfill on, to live life powerfully and a life that she loves. She is now delivering on the purpose of spreading unconditional love among human beings, and is now 100% convinced that there's nothing in the world that can stop her from fulfilling on her purpose. So I have a request for the audience. If you can just close your eyes, put your hands on your laps for a second for me. Close your eyes. I can see you. Your hands on your lap, and imagine. Imagine what would be possible in the world if each one of you loved themselves unconditionally. What would your life be like? What can you see for yourself? Allow your imagination to run wild into places you didn't even think possible. What would be possible if you unconditionally loved yourself, or fully self-expressed in achieving anything that you desire? Now open your eyes slowly and raise your hand if you're willing to share what you saw possible for yourself. I don't have a brave soul in the audience? Come on, I know there's one of you in there. Come on. Lumi, please and thank you.
So I saw peace, and I guess forgive myself first for whatever I'm being guilty of, and I'm not. We always are hardest on ourselves, right, and others. So yes, I saw life, peace, and kindness, and grace, and gratefulness, and love. So thank you. Thank you for that, for making me feel that way.
It is my pleasure. So I have a request for every single one of you. When you leave here tonight, I request that each and one of you is kinder to yourself, that you love yourself, that you act courageously, that you go get what you want. You've got one life to live, and if you don't do it, somebody else will live your life for you. And thank you for being here. I appreciate all of you.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to accomplish something that you think is impossible? Now, impossible is going to be something different for everyone in this room. Maybe for some of you, being impossible is like being a New York Times bestselling author. Anybody have that? Well, only a couple people. Okay, yeah, come on. Maybe impossible is like owning your own business if you don't already own your business. Maybe, yes. All right. Maybe impossible is something more physical. So how about like climbing Mount Everest? Ooh, more people than I thought. I don't even want to do that. Maybe base camp. I can maybe go to base camp. So in a moment, I'm going to share with you how I accomplished something that I felt was impossible, but also how I took one of the most sad days of my life, where I just felt more upset and frustrated than I probably ever felt before, and turned it into one of the best days of my life, where I felt more love and more joy than I've ever felt before. Is that good? Are you with me? Awesome. All right, so the first thing I always like to start off with is the why. Why am I even up here? Why do I speak? Why do I do this? And the reason is because I think that there's a lot of people out there in the world who are the walking dead. And I don't mean the TV show. I mean people who are going through life, going through the motions, not excited about anything, and on kind of this treadmill. And I know because I used to be there. When I practiced law, I would go practice law, and then I would come home, I'd be exhausted, I'd eat dinner, I'd go to sleep, I'd get up, I'd go practice law, get home, eat, go to sleep, get up, go. Anybody ever been on that treadmill before? Or you know somebody who is if you're not on it. It sucks. It's not the way to live life. And it makes me sad because I don't think that's what our lives are about. I don't think that's why we're on the planet. I think we're on the planet to love what we're doing and to do things that excite us and to inspire other people and to inspire ourselves. And that's why I get up and talk. So I have many friends in the audience tonight. Thank you for coming tonight. And many of you guys know me now as a rather adventurous person. Dare I say even athletic, which I still have trouble tying that one on. But I wasn't always this way. Oh, wait. Oh, I totally forgot my bio part. I'm a little nervous too. So I'm an attorney, don't hold that against me. I'm a coach, I have 20 years marketing and business development experience in a variety of industries. And as Brad mentioned, my main business is helping coaches, speakers, and authors to grow and monetize their email list. So I'm not going to talk about that tonight, but if you have an email list you want to grow or monetize, I'd be happy to chat with you about that. It is something that I love doing. But tonight we're going to talk about a personal story. Is that cool? Awesome. Okay. Hey, there we go. Many of you know me as an active person, but I was not always this way. And things changed for me in 2005 when I took a trip to Havasu Falls in the Grand Canyon. Has anybody been there or heard of it? I know at least one person. There she is. I know you've been there. It's a gorgeous area of the canyon. Many people aren't aware of it. I absolutely recommend looking it up if you can. So I took this trip, and I thought they kept talking about all these different hikes they were going to do, and I was like, well, I'm totally not going to do that. Like, I've got my book. I'm going to lay by this little waterfall, and I'm going to have fun, and I'm not doing anything crazy. And then every morning, we would get up and they'd go, oh, we're going to go hike over here. Do you want to go hike over here? And I'd go, Well, okay, but then I'm going to go read my book because I'm just totally here to chill out. I'm not here to like do any of this crazy stuff. And before I knew it, I found myself at Mooney Falls, which you can see in this picture. It says descend at your own risk. So this is like a crazy, when they talked about this hike, I was like, no way am I going on that hike. That sounds nuts. And you literally like crawl through this hole in the canyon and you come out on the other side. It's hard to judge from this picture, but pardon me, it's like a straight wall and they just have rebar. It's a free climb, so you're not attached to anything and you're kind of just scaling down the side of this canyon, holding on to chains basically out of the thing. And I remember being there and I remember thinking, this is the first time I've been present in a really, really long time. I wasn't worried about my email, and I wasn't worried about my job, and I wasn't worried about relationship. I was right there, and it was liberating. It woke something up inside of me. And I always say that Adventure Girl was born in Havasu Falls, because after that trip, I started finding different ways to expand myself and to challenge myself. And one of those ways was through running. So this is, sorry, Leanne. The other Leanne is here, my friend. She's going to be in a few pictures. So I signed up for this race called the Urban Athlon. I ran my first 2 miles when I was 40 years old, which was 8 years ago. And yes, if you're doing math, that means I'm 48. I'm pretty proud of that. Do we have runners in the house? I know we've got some runners in the house. Awesome. So Leanne was like, by the way, you're going to need to run in order to do this race. Because I was like, oh, I don't know. She's like, it's an 11-mile course. She was on that first 2-mile run with me, which we still laugh about because it was rather hilarious. And I remember thinking, there's no way I could ever run more than 2 miles. But I kind of took a liking to it. And so I started doing more races. I did a half marathon, and then I do a full marathon. And, you know, I kept kind of trying different distances and trying different things. I think I just like the medals and the beer at the end, in all honesty. There's nothing wrong with that. So after a while, you know, again, in the vision of challenging myself, I thought, let's try a triathlon. And so as Brad mentioned, a triathlon, swimming, biking, and running, all in succession. And so I did my first one in 2012. And keep in mind, I didn't know how to swim when I started doing triathlon. Like, I knew how to, like, not drown, but I didn't know how to, like, have my face in the water and, like, doing anything remotely that looked like actual swimming. So I started doing triathlons. I start, again, bumping up the distances a little bit. This is from my first half Ironman. I started doing long course triathlon. And I love this photo. Leanne was there, Annie was there. I'm so happy because I can't freaking believe I just did that. Like, it was the most amazing day. And I love the picture because I'm just like, what? Like, how did that happen? So it's a half iron. So you know where the story's going to go, right? Like, who wants to stop at half? Let's go full Monty. We got to go full iron. So the best way, we've talked about the distance, but Brad, this is the video. I've got a video to actually give you an idea, a little bit more of what an Ironman is. Hope this piece of the technology works well. If you move your mouse on it, it should turn red. Nope. It's not going to do it? It's not turning red? Oh, take it out of presenter view. Take it out of presenter view.
Sorry.
This is the view that it doesn't do it in.
It was locking up earlier.
Okay, all right. Damn. All right, well, we won't do the video today. At any rate, Ironman is a 2.4 mile swim, it's a 112 mile bike, and it's a 26.2 mile run. All in one day. You have 17 hours to complete it. And I mean, as you can tell, this is like no joke, right? I know people are familiar with Ironman. Who's familiar with it? Some are intimately familiar with it in this room. So I train, you train for like months for this. You sign up a year in advance, and you put all your time and your energy into like swimming, biking, and running, and getting there. And so this to me was first of all crazy when I signed up for it, but I put all this time and effort to get there. And so we get to race day, and this is my training partner, Lauren, who is awesome. This is September 2014. We get to Madison, Wisconsin. We did the Wisconsin one, and we're like super excited because we know it's going to be an amazing day. We're kind of scared. We're very scared, but we know it's going to be an amazing day. So Madison swim start is a mass start. And so 2,200 people in the water, they fire off a cannon, and everyone just starts swimming. Can you see me in the pink? It's absolute insanity, but I love it. But so I finished the swim. I finished the whole 2.4-mile swim. I come out. I'm so excited. Everyone's always like, "You're so happy when you finish the swim." I'm like, "Because it's done." I'm still not a big swimmer, but as long as I get out alive, I'm like, rock on. It's going to be a good day. So I get through the swim. I get to the bike. Wisconsin is a really hard bike course, and it's very hilly. I know you guys are. That's Leanne. she was Darth Utter. I loved it. I thought it was amazing. So this bike course is 7,000 feet of climbing over the 112 miles. It's ridiculous. It's a double loop. So you ride out, go 2 loops. So this is one of the big hills. And you can see, I'm doing my best, man. I got a smile on my face. I'm on the course. I'm not the traditional Ironman. I have streamers on my handlebar. And I have a bell. I have ching ching bell. So when I go by and people are all an arrow with those helmets, and I'm all like ching ching ching. It's a crowd pleaser. So you can see I'm making the best of it. What you can't see in this photo is I'm actually having a hard day. And I'm starting to realize at some point that this might not be the day that I had planned. So this is the same spot. This is the same spot on the hill. And so you can see there's cars behind me now. It's darker. You can still see Darth Utter. You can't, Elaine's in this picture too, but I'm kind of blocking you. Oh, and there's Bernie is here too. For reasons I won't go into, I'm starting to realize that this is not going to end the way that I wanted it to end. And this moment on the hill was amazing for me because I felt so surrounded by love. And even though everyone knew that I wasn't going to make it, they wouldn't tell me that, and they were cheering me on as if I was going to make it. But I did finish the bike course. I just didn't finish it in time, and I missed the bike cutoff by 15 minutes. And so my day ended without a medal and without cheering, but being consoled by my dear friend. Sorry. It's been almost 3 years, and the story and these pictures still get to me. Because have you ever put your whole heart and soul into something and done everything right? I did all the training. I read the books. I hired a coach. I did everything I needed to do, and I came up flat. And it was gut-wrenching. I always do this when I talk about this story, because I don't know what TV show it was, but there was somebody who was like, "It's gut check time." And I always feel like this is gut check time. Because this is when you look at what your commitments are. Who are you committed to being in these moments? Because it's really easy to be committed, and it's really easy to do what you plan when things are going your way and when things are laying out the way you think they're going to. But when they don't, that's when you have to get back to who you really are and what you're committed to. So I was committed to this not being the end of my Ironman story. So I registered again. Because I wanted to be in choice around this. I wanted to be the one who decides how this story ends, and I wanted to write the ending to it. So here we go again. September 2016, I go with CES. John, you're here, you're in this picture. I hire a coach, I learn my lessons, I swim and I bike and I run. Ooh, and I eat. That, by the way, Ironman can attest. That is the best reason to do this. You can eat like crazy. So, anything you want. So I go through the whole process again. I get back to start day, back in Madison, Lake Monona, September 11, 2016. I do the swim again. I finish the whole swim, this time 10 minutes faster than the first try. Thank you. Turns out swimming more than once a week actually makes you faster at it. A little extra coaching tip. I get to the bike. This is the same spot, basically on the bike course. You can see I'm smiling, and I'm making the best of my day. I'm still having some issues, though. And at one point I realized, oh my God, I'm going to cut it close on time again. And I'm like, oh, this can't happen. This can't happen. So I dig deep, and I'm like, no. I was like, just bear down, just do everything you can. I'm pedaling as fast as I can. The end of the bike course in Wisconsin, you ride up this helix, this parking garage helix, and so it's like you know those ones that are like spinny, spinny, spinny. It's kind of cruel because you have to get all the way up there at 112 miles. So anyway, I get on the helix, and I'm riding up the helix, and this is my friend Michelle running next to me screaming, "You've got 1 minute!" I knew it was close. I didn't know it was quite that close. But I finished the course. I finished the course in time. This time I finished with 19 seconds to spare. Seconds, thank you. Oh my God. And my coach is always like, Leanne, that's 10 and a half hours into your day. 19 seconds is really tiny margin for 10 and a half hours in. This picture is actually, remember my friend Lauren that I talked about? So Lauren, the orange arrow is pointing to her. Lauren finished the bike course 20 minutes ahead of me, and in one of the kindest acts of friendship I've ever witnessed, waited for me to make sure. She's so excited she's jumping. She did a 112-mile bike too. I don't know how she's doing that. So it was absolute mayhem. I have some friends here who were there, and it was absolute mayhem at the bike finish that day. So because I finished the bike, I get to run. Never been so happy in my life to run a marathon. And so 26.2 miles later, after 16 hours and 51 minutes on the course, I got to hear the words that I've been dying to hear. Leanne Webster, you are an Ironman. I'll never get tired of that. So I'm telling you this story today, not just because I think it's a cool story, even though I think it's a pretty cool story. And I'm extraordinarily proud of myself. I got the tattoo, and I'm very proud of it. But I tell it to you because the first time that I heard what an Ironman was, I was like, that's ridiculous. That's impossible. I think I even said, that's stupid. Who would even try it? And so I went from thinking something was impossible to actually doing it. And what that told me was, what's impossible is actually up here. It's not out here. We spend our lives telling ourselves that we're too short, or we're too tall, or we're too rich, or we're not enough this, we're not enough that, and all of it is bullshit. Thank you. What's real is what you tell yourself about what you can do. There was a blind man who finished Ironman the year that I did it, ahead of me, of course. I still don't know how he swam. I'm absolutely mystified by how, and the hills, I don't know. That's right, that's right. There was a 74-year-old man who finished Ironman that I did, ahead of me. Pretty much everyone finished ahead of me. But I don't care, because I got the same medal that they all did. So the thing to just notice is, what is it that you're telling yourself about what you can achieve in your life? I have 3 keys that I want to share with you that I learned through my journey. And the first one is a commitment. What are you committed to, and to whom are you committed? So I signed up for Ironman. This is when I signed up for the first one. I signed up really 3 years before I actually finished the race. And I had no idea it was going to be a 3-year journey. But I was committed to always pushing myself, to always achieving different things, and to just trying to do things that it doesn't seem like normal humans should do. This is also if you're committed to yourself. When I didn't finish that first time, I knew that I had told myself that I wasn't going to stop until I crossed that finish line. And I wasn't going to let myself down by bypassing that and letting that goal go. The second is your mindset. Mindset is not just like positive thinking. Mindset is really what you're telling yourself. If you tell yourself that you can't do something, you're never going to be able to do it. If you tell yourself, I might be able to do it, or I think I'm going to find a way to do it, or maybe let's look at somebody else who did it, then you can find a way to do it if you're committed. The blind guy who's out there swimming, he could easily say, maybe there's something else I could be doing, right? I probably would pick that, I don't know. But he doesn't. He tells himself he can do it, and he finds a way to go do it. I found that through this training, it really is probably the most mental thing that I've ever done, because you can train your body to do anything, but getting to the start line and then getting to the finish line is all mental. It's all what you're telling yourself through the day. And it's actually part of what happened to me that first time, was I didn't have a file for not finishing. I didn't have a file for what went wrong. And so I started losing a lot of energy on the course, going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I'm not going to finish. Oh my God, what time is it? Oh my God, what about this? What about this? And I totally got myself into a different space that didn't help me achieve what I wanted to achieve that day. In hindsight, I'm kind of glad I didn't finish because it's a fun story, but that day, that day I was not. Let's see, and then the third is crew. So crew is really looking at who do you have in your life and whether they're helping you or hurting you. My mentor calls this having anchors or engines. Anchors are the people who weigh you down. They're the ones who just aren't, who are the naysayers and who are saying, like, I don't know if you can do that because that's kind of hard. Engines are the ones who are fueling what you want to do. So I want to introduce you to a few engines. The first is my buddy Lauren. You remember Lauren from all the swim starts. This is us during our sorority pose by the finish line. Oops. See, I didn't move it far enough away. Lauren was the one who waited for me in T2, which was amazing and incredible. She added about 30 minutes to her race time just to make sure that I made it. And all of her friends were like looking at the app going, what, is she okay? Like, what happened to her? Just being a dear friend. I had friends who came from LA, from Miami, from Chicago. I've got a couple friends here tonight who were there on the course, popping up everywhere and cheering me on. And honestly, that day, I felt more love than I've ever felt in my life. From all the messages and all the people popping up, it was really just the most incredible day. So I wanted to show you a video of crew, but the video is not working. I'm going to try to describe it, although it's really, I don't know where it's going to go. Okay. Yeah, no. Okay. You'll see red cowboy boots. So basically, I had that shot of my, those are the red cowboy boots that are in the still from the video. So this was my coach. So basically what happened, remember there's a helix at the end of the thing, of the bike course. So I get down to the bottom of the helix and I'm starting to go up and I'm like, I know it's kind of close. and I was thinking to myself, I promised everyone an epic bike finish, but I didn't know it was gonna be this epic. I get down there, Michelle starts screaming, "You've got 1 minute, go!" And she's running next to me. She's not a runner at all, by the way. And I'm on my bike and I'm like looking at her shoes thinking, her feet have got to be like killing her. This is really incredible. You know, they go so fast and there really wasn't a lot else to think about. So she's running next to me screaming how, you can do it, don't stop, you gotta go. So I get all the way up to the top, of course I finish. But what I think is most amazing about the video is that it changed my definition of what crew is. Because crew, now to me, means who's going to run up the helix with you? Can you see what a difference it makes in your life? If you have someone next to you screaming, you can do it, go, 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 you've got this. Instead of saying, you only got a minute. I don't know, Leanne. I don't know if you're going to make it. It's a massive impact on what you can accomplish in your life. So I encourage all of you to look at the people especially who are closest to you, and figure out if they're anchors or engines. And if they're anchors, if you can't make them an engine, you might want to find a different group of people to hang out with, because it's that important. So I'm sharing everything with you today because what I've learned through my journey is that as I challenge myself physically, it really makes a difference in my life mentally and how I am as a person and how I am in my business. And it's inspired me to start a movement. And the movement is called Live Now Adventures, Play Outside to Transform Inside. And the idea is I want to take people on adventures so they can experience what I've experienced, climb down the Havasu Falls, try a hike that they've never tried before, and experience something that really changes how they look at what they can accomplish. And so does that sound interesting, by the way? Yeah? So what I would love from you is your help in how I get the trip part, right? And I have the vision for that, but what I need help with is figuring out the other piece of it. Before the big trip, what makes sense. And so if you're interested and this sounds inspiring to you, then what I would love is Annie, Annie has these forms. Oh wait, we went to Havasu Falls, that's the other thing I forgot. I went earlier this year, went back, and it was amazing. And these two girls hiked, they had never hiked more than like a couple miles, and they did a 10-mile hike in and out. And out is really crazy because it's like a 1,500-foot elevation gain in like the last mile. So you're literally like going straight up. So these are the kind of things I want to do. So if you're interested, Annie has a form. You can give me your name and your email, and then I'll send you like a little survey. It's just a super quick thing just to help me get some information of what would be most helpful and how we can play together. So if you're interested, raise your hand, or you can see Annie or see me after, and we can do that. But I thank you so much for your time and attention tonight, and I hope that you have an inspiring evening, and I appreciate you for being here. Thank you.
When Brad asked me to do a talk, at a night of inspiration, I was like, of course he asked me to do a talk. With my list of accolades, certainly, Brad suspected that I could find some kind of nugget of inspiration to share with the masses, right? After all, I did intern in Washington, D.C. when I was 19 years old. When I was 21, I moved to Los Angeles with $1,200 in my pocket and whatever would fit in my red 1997 Dodge Spirit. I went there to break into the television industry, which I did within 2 weeks of getting there. When I was 25, I moved to Chicago and started my own business. When I was 27, I became a mud wrestler. When I was 28, I started my second business. I've been an activist in Chicago for about 8 years. And I've been a speaker for about as long as I can remember, winning my first speech competition in the 6th grade. So, I've been around. And so I was like, yeah, of course Brad's asking me to share inspiration with everybody, I got this. And so I started looking at that list of accolades and I was like, well, what do all of these things, what do they all have in common that I can talk about and impart upon the masses? And I was like, I got it. Fearlessness. There was just, present for me, fearlessness in all of those items. That's it. That's what I'll talk about. I'll talk about being fearless. A couple days later, that idea was kind of trampled on because I was on Facebook, of all places, and I opened up a Facebook invite, and it was for this woman's workshop on courage. And so I opened it up, and I was like, oh, well, let's see if I'm available. Let's see if this is something I want to go to, meet some awesome women. This would be great. And I read the description for the event, And it talked about how there was no such thing as fearlessness. And I was like, bullshit. There is fearlessness. And I went back through my list, and I was like, no, I was fearless there, and I was fearless there. And then, I got to a couple of them. And if I'm going to be modest, all right, a couple of them, maybe I was stepping a little bit more into courage than out of fearlessness. Maybe. For sure, moving to Chicago, that was fear-filled for me. And the other one was starting the second business. There was a lot of fear around starting the second business for me. And I looked at those two items, and I was like, well, what do these have in common that out of this list of like fearless, these fearless actions, what do they have in common that a lot of the others don't? And I got it right away. I mean, I'd done something like it in some form already. So I'd already moved cross country to Los Angeles. And so I knew like the tumult and the hardship that comes with having no money, having no job, having no idea what you were going to do with your life, and just moving across the country. I knew what that was like, and so that created fear for me. It was like, taking that memory and just putting it into the future, right? So I was like, okay, well, I guess that makes a lot of sense. In the second business, I mean, it was my second business. So I knew what it was going to take to actually run and have a really successful second business. So taking that memory of the first business created fear around starting a second business. I knew it was going to take something. And so there it was. Okay, fine. Maybe some of it actually took courage rather than fearlessness. I'll admit to it. And a lot of that, what I noticed, came out of just being naive and not knowing. The fearlessness came out of naivety, and the courageousness came out of the knowing. Okay? I continued looking at my list, and I noticed that there were two other items on that list of accolades that I had listed that I had actually stepped into fearlessly and are now currently doing with incredible amounts of fear, and I continue to do them today. The first one is mud wrestling. Yeah, I'm undefeated, by the way. When I was 27 years old, and I joined the Mud Queens of Chicago, I was like this unstoppable babe. I would wrestle anybody, any size, I don't care. I've wrestled women over 200 pounds and beaten them. And it was just easy. It was just fun. It was awesome. And then at one point, something changed. I don't know exactly what changed or when, but I suddenly noticed that when I was standing backstage waiting for my rounds, watching the rounds going on upstage, that I would get filled with this massive amount of anxiety, really sweating, hyperventilating, to the point where I was just moving around, do what I can, pretend like everything is okay, right? I'm fine, just warming up, I got this. When really I'm on the verge of vomiting because I'm terrified to go on stage and wrestle. Something I'd been doing for years. And in the writing of this speech, I really gave some thought to what the heck did happen. And I noticed that the thing that I'm most scared of was injury. I started getting really scared of getting hurt. Comes with age, you don't bounce back as easily as you once did. But I'd been injured before, in wrestling and outside of wrestling. And those injuries cost me tens of thousands of dollars because I didn't have health insurance, and I still don't. So that gave me a lot of fear. And that knowing that like if I bust my knee or if I rip my shoulder out of its socket, that's gonna cost me a lot of money. Not only pain, but a lot of money and probably time off of work, considering my line of work is personal training. So a lot of fear around that now. Now, I'll admit, a lot of the fear also comes out of the fear of losing, because I hate to lose. And so, and I got a little bit of pride. I've been the champion for 2.5 years now, and, still holding my own. So we'll see how long that goes for, and then I think I'm going to retire after that. But I'm just waiting to get beat so that I don't go out on top. I kind of think that's. But so I was like, okay, well, that plays right back into that idea of like the naivete creating fearlessness and the knowing creating fear and courage. The other item on that list that I knew that I had stepped into originally fearless and now do with great amounts of fear anyway is activism. I have been an activist, like I said, in Chicago for 8 years. I have organized, I have lobbied, I have canvassed, I have petitioned, I have called my legislators, I have gotten arrested, I have risked bodily harm. And I've done it for organizations like Democracy Spring, Wolfpack, US Uncut, MoveOn.org, the People's Lobby, Reclaim Chicago, and for the Bernie Sanders campaign. The first time I remember having fear in my activist career was on the day of Trump's inauguration. I was in Washington, D.C., and I was working with a group called Democracy Spring. And we had tickets to the inauguration. The plan was to go in, get front and center in front of the podium, and then when Trump was going to stand up and give his oath of office, we were going to interrupt it by standing on our chairs, ripping off our coats, and spelling out the word resist. We were going to shout, in order to interrupt him, the preamble of the Constitution. I was the call leader because I have the loudest voice. No surprise. So we practiced all night. We got no sleep. We got to the inauguration at 6 a.m. And we were in like section 12. We snuck up to section 6 and got front and center right there in front of the podium, so we could make the biggest impact, right? And we waited. We had our coats on, our sweatshirts covered up, and we just waited. And we were all so scared. And I remember the reason that I was scared, I've been escorted out by police, I've been detained before, it was nothing like that really, but I was really scared of bodily harm. I had seen what had been happening in certain crowds, and it didn't seem safe, but I was doing it anyway. And we were frightened. And I remember being with my crew and being like, all right, guys, we gotta create this as exciting. We gotta be this has gotta be fun. I mean, we're at a friggin' presidential inauguration and we're sitting among all these big oil guys. This is awesome, right? And so we ended up having a really great time, talking to everybody around us. We had fun. And the time was approaching. And as we were sitting there, shooting the shit with everybody, the anxiety started to bubble up in ways that I don't even know how to describe. It was throat tightening, stomach tightening. What did you say? Right there. Yeah, exactly. That's what it was. And Trump approached the podium, and right as he began to speak, I stood up on my chair, I rip off my coat, and I yelled, "We the people!" And my crew stood up and they yelled, "We the people!" And I said, "Of the United States!" And they said, "Of And then I forgot the words to the preamble of the Constitution. So that was awesome. Then we just started chanting, USA, USA. And, the people behind us, they're ruining everything. They started flipping our chairs over. I stood back up on the chair and just kept chanting, USA, USA, until the cops came, hauled us away out of the crowd, and detained us. It was a lot of fun. A lot of activists that day got arrested, and over 200 of them were charged with felonies. Yeah, risking arrest is not so much fun and games anymore. There's a lot more at stake now. So presently, I've been actually finding that I've been living a lot of my life standing in courage rather than fearlessness. You know, that early young 20-something of old has had too much experience and too many heartbreaks, too many disappointments. And so now I find in a lot of situations that I am just so scared. I got engaged 2 months ago, right, to that dude right there. And man, that is some scary stuff, right? Holy cow. So I have been a no to marriage since I was in the 3rd grade. There's actually a cassette tape of me as a little girl being like, no, I'm this great business owner with all this money. I don't need a man. Oh, you want some money? You want some money? Great, come to Kira. Literally, there's a cassette tape of me saying that. And so I was a no to marriage, and I'll admit, like, being engaged, has freaked me out a little bit. It's like a whole new territory, right? I've gotten over it for the most part, and now it's like, it fits really well. And now we're talking about, having kids. Are you kidding?
They're amazing, I promise.
Children?
I promise.
Wow, do you know what happens to your body when you have a kid? Oh, hell no. Not to mention, you're responsible for this little human being. Right? No, thank you. Responsible for this little human being and whether or not they're gonna be a crappy person. You're like, oh man, that's a bummer. And then talk about when they're 4 or 5, you send them out to preschool or kindergarten. Go have fun, honey. Bye. Talk about just relinquishing control. Yeah, that's what I imagine it as being. And then with the internet, are you kidding me? Because this is some scary stuff. So, I look at it, and I look at my partner, and I was like, okay, we'll do it anyway. I'll step into it. I'll be courageous. My business partner of 10 years just moved to Los Angeles 2 weeks ago. Yeah. So we've been building this business together, just side by side. We've lived together the majority of the time that we've built this business. We started out as just 2 20-somethings, riding around on our bikes, going to people's homes and condo apartments and training them. And we did it under this umbrella, Comfy Fitness, which is the name of our business. And what we did was, a percentage of what we made during our training session would come to us, and then a percentage of it would go to our business. And that's how we built the business that we have today. We didn't know anything about building a business, but that's what we did. And it built into this amazing storefront that we have on Damon Avenue in Bucktown. We have 3 trainers that work there and 2 mental health therapists. And it's magical. It's like the most magical life I could have possibly created. I love it. I love it a lot. And about a year ago, my business partner told me that she did not want to do the business any longer. And so we decided to start. Decided, is that a new word? We created an exit strategy. And we decided we would hire a business consultant because we have no clue what we're doing, still, a decade later. The business consultant comes in and is like, oh, geez, all right, you guys, this is not going to work. And so, we changed everything. We changed everything that we could change about our business. We changed how much we charge. We changed how we package our sessions. We changed how we pay our trainers. We changed everything about our business. And that was scary. We lost 24 clients in that transition, which was about a third of the clients that we had. One of our trainers quit, and that was heartbreaking. And she quit out of her own fears. She lost the majority of her clients. She had just had a baby. Her husband lost his job. She got another offer, and she took it, and she went her own way. And she'd been working with us for over 4 years. And my own income has been halved. So now I'm turning up about $600 short every month on my bills. And that's really, really scary. And just going in every single day, just knowing, like, this is going to work, this is going to work. And just always finding new ways of doing things and lifting your team up and getting up under them and just being there for them. And then not having the business partner there to bounce ideas off of. When there's a complaint or someone wants their money back, saying like, well, at least I have this person who's got my back, on this, just gone, just not present at all. I don't really know exactly what my conclusion of this is, but one of the things that I've really been seeing is that, yeah, there's just a lot more at stake. So whenever I get into that space of like high anxiety or like, oh my God, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? What I do is I remember that, young 20-something, that bold, wide-eyed woman. And I just remember that she had set out to take on the world. Thank you.
That was a wonderful story. And so can you just picture her down there in the front of the inauguration? And like, we the people! There's something really good coming next. But I found myself thinking, well, the Schoolhouse Rock song, right? We the people, in order to form, like, but you wouldn't think about that while you're down there, right? In your moment, thinking, what's going to happen with all these people behind me that I tried to make friends with, but they really don't want to be my friends, and they see what I'm going to do, and I take off my shirt, Very cool, very, very cool. So we have our final speaker tonight, Brad, who is the host, and I'm very grateful for Brad for putting this evening together and for creating a space for us to share our stories and to inspire each other. Brad and I met virtually, and he was hosting a virtual event that I produced them, and we connected. I think I was a speaker on your event. I don't know. I can't remember all the connections. But when he moved to Chicago, we finally got to meet in person, and we've been helping each other and supporting each other ever since. So he's going to share his story about how he went from buying his confidence with read my official note. Buying this conference with a paycheck to now inspiring others to face their own fears and to change themselves with the power they have in their lives. So, Brad Finkeldean.
I guess.
Is this
First one.
Yeah, I know. I'm the first one to use the timer.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Leanne, and thank you, everyone, for showing up. I appreciate it. So, have you ever had a moment in your life where something changed for yourself and you knew that things weren't going to be the same? Well, what I want to share tonight is that moment for me where something shifted, and it wasn't it was a huge moment, but in the moment it was just like a little step, but it pivoted me in the direction that I am now. And so what I want you to do is listen for yourself of like, where is that moment that you either taken or that may be coming up in your life when you step into a fear. Because what I've discovered is that when we ask for things in our life, and then something comes right at us and we're afraid to do it, that's usually the opportunity to get exactly what we want. So on the other side of fear is an opportunity of some sort. And I think in each of everybody's stories tonight, there's something in there. I don't know if I would have the cojones to stand up in front of Trump like Kira did, but so I was living in Portland, Oregon, and I had moved there as part of my entrepreneurial journey. And I saw this guy, I was out walking my dog, I saw this guy pushing his bicycle, and he had some boxes under his arm, and they had Amazon tape. And it sparked my memory that I had a package coming in the mail. And I was a little excited, kind of that Christmas morning feeling. And so I look on my phone, and I see that it was literally just dropped off. And so I hurry back to the house, and I'm excited to see it. And when I get to the porch, there's no package. And when I get and look inside, there's no package there. And what was inside was something very important to me. In fact, it was a tiny little rubber chicken. And I'll get into that throughout my story and share more of that. And I realized in that moment that the guy that I had just passed was the guy that had stolen it. And so my heart started racing, and it started pumping, and I had to go chase this guy down. But why would anybody chase anybody down for something as stupid and ridiculous as a 1-inch rubber chicken? Like, why in the world would you do that? So to give you some context and to back the story up, 3 years before that, I was in a corporate job making really good money, but I had come to, I don't want to use the word hate, because I did like what I was doing, but I felt called to do something different, and I wanted to make a difference in the world, and I want to travel more, and I definitely didn't want to sit behind the computer for another 20 years, 30 years, or whatever that meant. And so I decided that I needed to take a risk, and I had seen this documentary called The Happy Movie, and it gets into the science of happiness. And in that moment, I realized I needed to reach out to a life coach and get some help. And so I did. And at that point in time, I had bought I was living in Austin, Texas, and I had bought this big house and had this BMW, and I had all the things and stuff you're supposed to. But I definitely wasn't happy, and I definitely didn't like myself. And after this conversation with the life coach, she looked me in the eyes and she said, "You're not confident. You're buying all of your confidence with a big paycheck, and you're trying to impress people." And it was like another gut punch moment. I think there's a theme going on tonight. And so I knew what I needed to work on, and I had always wanted to leave and do something on my own. And so I said to the universe, said to God, I'm going out and I'm going to do my own thing. And I said, 3 months later, I'm going to do this. And I drew a line in the sand, and I made a commitment. And there's something funny when you make a commitment and you say you're going to do it, things start showing up in your life. Usually things that you might be afraid of to step into. But those are your opportunities. And so I started stepping into those. And about 2 weeks later, I got laid off. And it was like a perfect opportunity. You know, that's actually the best way to do it. Because they give you money to leave, and they will give you a package. Otherwise, you're left with nothing. So if you can work your way into getting fired, that's my big advice for you. So that started me and catalyzed me into going out and really going for what I wanted. And what I'm going to share now are some of the most impactful stories that I had during that journey, where I learned about committing to something, where I learned about being courageous, being able to tell people I was wrong and ask for their forgiveness, and then stepping into what does natural confidence look like, because the person you're looking at today wouldn't even be thinking about doing something like this. This was nowhere on the radar. And so I started my entrepreneurial journey, and at that time I was doing photography, and I was in commitment mode, and everything lined up, and I got my first international gig. And I went to Guatemala, and I shot a yoga forest, and I flew my drone over the yoga forest, and it was an incredible journey, and I built their website, and it was a great first gig, and I'm very grateful for it. And I went back to Austin, Texas at the time, and then I went home to St. Louis, where I'm from. And it was Christmas time. And during that time, I realized that it'd been about 20 years since my dad passed away. And my mom's house had fallen apart. And no one had really taken care of it. We had done what we could, but people just didn't have the resources, as my brothers didn't. And so I decided again to step into commitment. And I said, screw it. I wasn't that happy in Austin. I'm moving back in with my mom, and I'm going to give her a really nice 70th birthday gift. So I moved in with her for about 9 months, and I completely rehabbed her basement, fixed up the upstairs, fixed up the outside, just gave her something so she wouldn't have to be embarrassed to have her grandkids or her kids over, and she could have a Christmas or birthday or whatever she wanted to do. It's none of my business, I don't care, but she wouldn't be embarrassed. And during that time, I really learned what it took to be committed to something, because it took all of this effort. It took me stepping into becoming a leader and wrangling my brothers and the neighbors and contractors and people I didn't know how to really deal with, and just inside of like, well, I don't know how to do the plumbing or electrical, and I don't want to kill myself, and I definitely want this to be done well, so I need to get someone else to do this, because I'm the type of guy that wants to do everything myself. And I definitely did a lot of the work myself from YouTube and learned, so you can do a lot yourself, but it's a lot easier with team. And so during that process, I learned about life coaching, and that you can have that as a business. And so I went out and got my certification, and then the next thing you're supposed to do as a coach is you're supposed to write your first book. And so then I wrote my first book, wrote it in 100 days, and then the next step after that in the so-called plan is you're supposed to be a speaker. So I got a speaking gig down in Ecuador, and I went with 20 other speakers, and we went down there on not a mission trip, but we did bring clean water filters to 2 communities in the Amazon rainforest. If you ever get a chance to go there, do it. It's incredible. It's awesome. And then we spoke at the university down there. We all shared a message of inspiring the communities down there to do something that to leave them with inspiration. Because even though we brought clean water filters, they couldn't get those down there. And it was something very important to them. But one of the men that was with us, Leanne, can you grab my chicken? One of the men that was with us was a shaman. And his totem animal was a chicken. And so he carried around, you can throw him up here. Yeah, you can throw him up here. He's not going to die. He's a rubber chicken. So this is Charlie. And he carried around a rubber chicken just like this. and he empowered people to step into their fears and to quit being chickens and do what they really want in their life. And then he would hand them a little tiny rubber chicken to remind them and have in their life something that was a token, like when they see it, okay, maybe now it's time for me to step up and to face this fear so I can see the opportunity on the other side. And so he left that with me, and I felt really like, okay, cool, like, you know, I have something, and I was touched by it. And then, you know, the rest of the trip happened. And I want to share a very short story inside of commitment and finishing something all the way. And how at the darkest times when you're about to finish something, you want to quit. So we had gone to the Andes Mountains, and we had gone to deliver clean water filters to them. And their community had said to us, oh, we're going to do this ceremony. It'll be at the bottom of the hill. It'll take a few minutes to get down there, and then we'll do the ceremony, and then we'll come back up. Well, what they didn't tell us, what wasn't communicated, was that this was a mountain, and there were switchbacks to get down to their ceremonious water grounds, which was a raging river. And so it didn't take 10 minutes for us non-natives there to get down. It took like an hour and a half, 2 hours. And we had everybody ranging in age and size, and it was a difficult trip down for some people. And we get down there, and we do the ceremony, and we're like, oh, thank God, no one died. And now we have to turn around and go back up. And going back up was ironic, because what ended up happening is we had a man that was almost 300 pounds. He was like 6'7", just a big, big man. And he had to take 10 steps and then stop, and then 10 steps and stop. What ended up happening was the little girls in the community had to go get buckets of water from their village, bring it back down, and then we had to use our water filters to clean them because it wasn't clean water, to save our lives. And it was another 2 hours back up this treacherous thing, and people got confused and lost, and I was one of those people lost. And right before the end, I had walked up to a house, and I didn't know what to say. There was no one there. It was just chickens and dogs, no one else around. We're 2 hours away from anywhere. But I know I'm close to the finish line, but I want to give up and I want to quit. I had nowhere else to turn. I didn't know Spanish. I still don't. I knew one word. I knew hola. And so I step out to the edge of the kind of like the mountain edge, and I just start screaming, hola! In a very desperate voice. And a very kind man said something back in Spanish. I don't know what he said. But he could tell I was desperate and needed help. And he came over, and he took me another 10, 20 yards to the finish, to the top. And then I met up with the community. And I felt it in that moment. It's like, wow, this is what it's like to be an entrepreneur, to go after a big goal. It's like, you're about 90% of the way, and that's when you want to quit. And that's when the time you need to ask for help. And it just really hit me. I was like, wow, I should ask for help more. And maybe I'll go a little further. So that's my story about commitment. My next story is about courage and about being able to say you're wrong. So I was this is back in Portland, and I was living with a roommate. And when I moved in, she described that she was an introvert. She didn't talk very much, and she was quiet. And I said, okay, well, I get that. And this is all internal dialogue, and I now get that I was being pretty arrogant about it. And I got that I thought I knew what an introvert was. Like, they don't go out much, they don't talk much, maybe they don't have many friends, or I don't know. This was all the internal dialogue. And when I was living with her, I would come down the stairs and I would say good morning or hi or whatever, and she wouldn't respond. And I would kind of get a little pissed of like, well, you're supposed to say hi to people, like it's morning, like that's how I was raised. What's wrong with you? And that's what I would say. I wouldn't say that to her, but that's what I would say to myself. And I'd be like, oh, she's got to go out and get friends. She's got to go out and network. She's got to do this and she's got to do that. And I was trying to fix her, like a typical guy. And this went on for months. And I never said anything. I just withheld this in. And then one morning, I was on a coaching call with my business coach. And I was sharing a story about my niece, and my niece was afraid of spiders. And my business coach just stopped and yelled at me, and she's like, "Stop making your niece wrong for being herself. You have no clue what it's like to be her." And it was like she punched me in my ego and like kind of shattered it. And like I finally got something. And so a few more months of coaching went on, and I finally walked down the stairs, and everything was kind of like coming to this moment. And I walked down the stairs, and I walked in the kitchen, and it just landed with me that I only know my experience in life, like my experience. Like I have no clue what it's like to be anybody else here. Like no clue at all. And what I got then was, crap, I need to go talk to her. I need to go apologize because I've been making her wrong, and that hasn't led to any openings in our friendship or being roommates. And so I walked into the other room, and I said, I need to share something with you. And so what I did was I said, I've been making you wrong for being who you are. And what that ended up doing was open up a conversation. And what she shared with me was really vulnerable, and it opened up a connection between us. She shared that she had been raped and molested by her brother in that house when she was a kid. And then in order to survive as a child, she went into imagination land. And that's the only thing she knew how to do. And when she went outside in public, it took all of her energy, but you would think she's a powerhouse, you would think no different than Kira. I mean, she's a really strong woman. But as soon as she closes the doors to get inside, whoosh, she goes right back into imagination land. And that's just who she is. And there's nothing wrong with her. And so I really got that. And then what that opened up was now me knowing and apologizing for being wrong and making her wrong for who she was, is that opened up our relationship. And ever since that moment, we've been able to talk more and be more open. And I obviously don't live in Portland anymore, but there's a connection there. And we now know each other better. And so that's my story of really stepping up and being courageous and admitting when you're wrong about something, even if it's just an internal dialogue. So that old adage of never judge a book by its cover, it's probably true. And so my last story of stepping into what your natural confidence is kind of all of these wrapped up and all these little stories that I learned along the way. So if you can imagine the word strong vertically, S-T-R-O-N-G, the S and the T are for your strengths and triumphs in your life. And we forget so much how much stuff we've done, that if we can keep those present in our life and remind us, put them on the mirror, share them with other people, of all the little things, it will give us more confidence to do the things that we're scared to do in the present. When I go back to my mom's house and I sit in that basement, it's a great feeling to know that I did that, Kathy, when you look at your son, like I'm sure you get that too, and I don't want to rattle off all of Kira's accomplishments, but I'm sure you get that too when there's those moments that remind you of like where you were from to where you are now. And same thing for Leanne, like all those moments. Where you at? Oh, there you are. It just reminds you of like all the hard work that came in and did it. And the more you can bring those present in your life, just by little reminders of like what you actually did, it just gives you more encouragement naturally. The R stands for releasing regrets and shames in your life, and like letting go of all the things that you might not be ashamed of, or things that you may have done in your past that you wouldn't do again. There's a quote by Les Brown that says, if you would never do it again, you're convicting an innocent person.
Wait, you say that again?
If you'd never do it again, you're convicting an innocent person. And it's all that internal dialogue that just keeps going and going and going, because there's something in your past that you keep bringing forward that isn't true anymore, because you already learned the lesson. The O in the strong is about observing yourself. And I learned this I've surrounded myself with a bunch of powerful women. and I've learned a lot of really valuable lessons. And one of, this was in Portland, she shared with me a breakthrough in her own body image. And I had beaten myself up for I was a husky kid, and had love handles, and was fat, and like, I just really, that internal dialogue in my head continued, and I was ashamed of who I was. I always compared myself to a good buddy of mine who was just one of those skinny, naturally fit guys that he didn't have to do anything and he looked good. And, but I wasn't that. I was the chunky kid. You know, I was Chunk from, what's the name of that movie, Goonies? Yeah, the Truffle Shuffle. And so I had worked really hard to get where I'm at today, but there's still that internal dialogue, or there was. And the exercise that she shared with me was really powerful. She said, stand in front of a mirror, don't do this in public, stand in front of a mirror naked until you accept yourself for who you are. And I started doing that and really just observing who I was in my body. And all the internal dialogue started to dissipate and go away. And I just started realizing, like, wow, it's just all internal. I don't have to beat myself up for having love handles, because it doesn't really matter, you know? If it really matters, you can always turn off the lights, right? So that was a really powerful story and a really powerful exercise for me, and I got a lot of natural confidence just about observing myself and doing that exercise until you can look at yourself in the eyes and accept yourself. The N in strong is when you're nervous, go into service. This is especially for speakers and people who want to make a difference. Is when you're nervous, you're internalizing what everybody else might be thinking about you. And if you can project yourself and make about what you're talking about them and the difference you're going to make, or whatever you're up to, is to focus on the other person, all of that starts to dissipate, and all your energy just goes on making a difference for you and you and you and you and whoever it is, and you don't have to worry about yourself. You know, make sure your fly's up, but that's about it. And the G in this is all about going to be yourself. What I found for myself is when I just be myself, that's when people admire me the most, that's when people give me the most recognition, and they admire the things that I don't really see that much, but they do, and they notice something in it. And if you look at Lady Gaga or any of the big superstars, it's because they're weird, unique, quirky qualities that they embrace the hell out of. And whatever that is for you, my request is you embrace that. And so all of these stories have led up to basically a moment after I moved here to Chicago of discovering who I am. And I moved up to Chicago on faith. My dog was dying of cancer, and I didn't know where to go, and I just got down on my knees, and my entrepreneurial journey wasn't going the way that I thought it was going to go. And I kept hearing the words Chicago, and I'm like, no, it's cold. I'm supposed to be on the beach. Yeah, Miami. And I asked again, and I heard Chicago, and I'm like, okay, I'll go to Chicago. So I moved to Chicago, and this was this year. And I'm out running at about 6:30 in the morning, and I'm asking myself the question, who am I? And something just came through me, and I said out loud, I'm a speaker. And then the weirdest thing happened after that. I burst into tears. I was like, why am I crying? I just asked myself a question, who am I? And what I got in that moment is I was withholding my whole life that I had a message that I wanted to get out and I wanted to share. And then it finally started to come out. And ever since that moment, I've been on the path to become a speaker. And I fly out tomorrow for my first paid gig in Las Vegas. And so my ask of you is to look inside yourself of what is that whatever that fear is for you, what's on the other side. You probably don't know, but you're probably going to like the result once you actually step through. You might not like the process. No, you're probably not going to like the process. to do an Ironman or to start your own business or to go out on a limb and ask that person out that you really want to. Whatever that is, there's something on the other side that you might actually really want. And so to get back to the story of the rubber chicken, is that so I was chasing this guy down. Well, first I grabbed my attack dog, Attack Liquor, and she joined me at hand. And I ran after the guy, and I caught up to him, and I said, "Hey, I think you got my package." And he said, "No, I don't." And I was like, "Yeah, you do." And I'm like, I looked, and there was my package. And I was expecting about 100 of these little things that I paid $30 for. I grabbed the package from him, and I rip it open. I was still excited to see what I had. I wanted to. I opened it up, and there was one rubber chicken, like 1 inch that I paid. I just got ripped off, and then this guy stole from me. That sucks. And then I looked at the guy, and everything switched, and I realized something wasn't right for him, and it switched from a moment of confrontation to a moment of compassion. And I said, "What's going on in your life that you're stealing random packages off people's porches? Like, what's going on?" And he opened up to me, and he shared with me that 4 people had died in his life that year, and that he was strung out on drugs, his mom was strung out, his girlfriend was strung out, and that they had gone homeless, and that the only thing they knew to get by was to steal packages. And so I used my coaching, to do what I could in the moment to assist him. And then I reached into my wallet and I gave him the last $6 that I had on me. And then I said, "Here's my business card, call me." And it was in that moment that I got my own confidence back and realized that I could make a difference when I shut up and I listen for other people and what's going on for them. And so now I'm on a mission to give away 10,000 tiny rubber chickens and to empower and inspire other people to share their stories, because whatever story it is you have, there's someone else that has gone through probably something similar, and they need to hear your story to encourage them. You don't have to get up on stage, but maybe it's something you share with a family member or a friend that could make a difference for them. And so, Leanne, would you bring me my big bag of rubber chickens so I can give everybody? Not the whole. Yeah, you can bring it up. So I'm gonna give Kira. Would you help me out too?
My mother taught me never to open anyone's bag.
And why did she
All right.
Hey.
So I'm gonna hand these out. Would you just hand some of these out? And then I've got some. Oh yeah, I've got some here. Yeah. So I'll get over on that side. Fred, there you go.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Boop, boop. On. So like me, like whenever you see this, it's a reminder for you to step into your fears, whatever that means for you. Whatever moment, if it's a conversation, or if it's a new big project, or if it's a breakup, or if it's an ask out, or if it's marriage, or divorce, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, if there's a fear there, my request is you step into it. And thank you guys for coming out. I appreciate you all for just being here. It's inspiring me. Thank you. Okay, so we've got just a few minutes left. Kathy and Leanne and Kira, does anybody have any questions for any of us? Yes, you can come up, Kira. You're trying to make sure we're doing it right. So does it? Yes.
So just for Leanne, I'd love to know mentally and physically what you did different between the first and the second Ironman that really made the difference.
It's a great question. So physically, I rode a lot more miles. Since I missed the bike cutoffs, I knew the bike was an issue for me, and I rode a lot more hills. So it's a very hilly course, and so I mean, I cried a lot this summer. I really pushed myself to do more miles. The physical part I thought was easy. The first time what went wrong for me was nutrition. So I also focused on nutrition. I have a nervous stomach on race morning, and so usually I can kind of get over in a shorter race. And what I learned was just trying to figure out what I could eat. I tried like donuts, I tried, different sandwiches, peanut butter, I tried whatever. I came to sausage McMuffin with egg. It just works for me. The mental thing was the biggest thing for me. I'm a very positive person. I'm a very much about visualization. And so I kept visualizing the perfect race. I kept visualizing the finish line. I kept visualizing the bike finish. What I didn't visualize was what could go wrong. And I didn't do that because I kept thinking, well, I don't want to have a file. I don't want to know the bike cutoff. I kept saying it. I don't want to know the bike cutoff because I'm not going to need to know it. And the truth is, you need to know that because you need to have a file for what could go wrong. And so this time I would, before every race, okay, what happens if my goggles get kicked off in the swim? I'll do this. What happens if I can't eat? I'll do this. What happens if I get a flat tire? I'll do this. I literally went through everything that could go wrong to create a file for what I would do so that if it did go wrong, because it will, it's a 17-hour day, something was going to go wrong. So I created a file that I would know what to do so that I could just pull that out if it happened. Is that answer? Cool. Thank you.
Anybody else?
So for Kira, I never exercise. I have to, at that point where I have no options. And how do you, I think it's both for both of you, because both of you are kind of fit to that, but you seem to, like you also have a gym. How do you mentally get into exercising? To me, it's just 40 hours of, what can I do? I feel like it's so boring, but maybe it's hours of training. Yeah. How mentally you do it?
I think Leanne would agree with me on this. You find something you love.
Yeah.
That's what you do. If you're bored with your exercise, you're doing the wrong thing, is what it is, really. My business is actually, it's a great, really great segue into, we just did some market research at the beginning of this year. And one of the things that we noticed was a lot of our demographic are people who've never exercised before. The name of the company is Comfy Fitness, and so people are like, oh, okay, I'll go here because I'm really uncomfortable in a gym. And so, people come to us who have never exercised a day in their life, and they have this story that they hate it, and that's what they live into, and that's their life. And then they do their first bench press. And then they're like, hell yes! I want to do that again, and then, eventually you're pumping massive weight over your head, and you're getting stronger, and you're doing things you never thought you could do before. And that's been the experience for a lot of newcomers to our business, and a lot of people that we talk to that were new to exercise now say thanks to you showing me really what exercise is about, I can't stop, I gotta do it every single day now, and maybe they just got lucky and they walked into a studio where we primarily do weightlifting, and that was their bag, and it just turned out to be a really great match for them. But truly, I think that if you are bored of your exercise, especially 10 minutes in, you're just doing the wrong thing. So just start exploring. There's a lot of things that these vessels are capable of.
Totally agree. And then the other thing I would add is Brad mentioned November Project, and I found that being in a group really helps. So November Project is fun because we did a sledding workout when it snowed. We pushed cars one day in the rain, and you're with all these other people who are yeah, let's try it, let's do it. You don't feel oh my God, I gotta do 100 sit-ups. You're more all right, let's go, jump up and down together and do things that makes it fun, and you still get a great workout in. So it's more inspiring and accountable because you know that people are going to be there waiting for you at the totem pole if you don't show up. You know?
Anybody else? Eric?
Yes. So Kathy, what would you say is the biggest difference or takeaway that you have from the relationships you're in now to what is it you're creating or looking for?
Thank you for that. My biggest takeaway is staying true to my needs and wants. And I have a son, I'm a single mom, and the one thing that I have not been present to is somebody accepting him, because I love him. So in my mind is, hey, I love him so much, everybody else will. And that's not the case. So, my friend once told me, she dated online, and I could never, it's not for me. I tried it, and it's just not, I'm not cut out for it. And she told me that when you meet somebody, what do you say to them? Like, are you a friend or like for what? I want to even see if I'm attracted to them, right? She's like, but it would be good so they know where you come from. And I took that for granted. So going forward, I'm gonna just say, hey, this is me, this is my wants, this is my needs. Can you see yourself fulfilling them? Because if you can't, I'm sorry, gotta move on. Set myself up for success. A relationship is like a business. You gotta have structure, it's true. If you don't express your needs and your wants, I'm sorry, it's not gonna work. Because if you can't build a relationship on integrity, foundation of integrity, no. So, thank you.
Lily?
Continue. So, first of all, I want to acknowledge you all for your courage to be in front of us and to share your intimate thoughts and failings. And I guess you all started with your failings to become successful, which is huge. Not everyone can share, right? So getting speaks for the first time today, so with that, kudos to you. And second, all of you have took a turn. There was a turn in your life to get to at least one, right? There be multiples, right? For you to become an Ironman. Again, I've never exercised. I've been 3 times in the gym, and I stand right back 10 years ago. So this is kind of my experience. So kudos to you. But again, you went through so many changes, and I'm just curious. I understand that it was a moment, right? That it was so painful that it made you change. But what will tell us to look for to get us to a smoother transition, to get to that point, to jump into that Ironman, that moving and making businesses and giving up your job and moving across and being a speaker and the same thing, being a spiritual speaker and going for your ones.
I think that for me, I've done a lot of crazy things. I've moved cross country twice, and the Ironman, and I've started my own business twice. And for me, there's always been some sort of gut calling that I knew something didn't feel right. And so sometimes I can't articulate it, but it's just like God, I can't stay here. The job that when I started my business now is a great job, and I kept saying, why can't I stay in this job? It's not that bad. I have good benefits. Why am I going to chuck it all to go just out on my own? But it just didn't feel right to stay on the path that I was on, and it felt better to go try something different. And I've always lived my life saying I would rather learn the lesson of trying something and failing than to never try and wonder. I never want to wonder. I always want to just know.
I mean, I totally agree with that. Absolutely. When I was living in LA, I worked in television and I worked at Nickelodeon as an assistant to the executive producer there. And it was like, especially for how old I was, it was like the dream job for anybody who wanted to work in TV. And my boss, who loved me and I loved him, he told me hey, you want to be a writer? Come sit in the writer's room. I did that. You want to be a casting director? Go help cast. I did that. You know, you want to be an editor? Go sit in the editing room. I went and did that. And none of it turned me on. Like, I was not excited at this, like, the thought that I could be anything I want in the television industry right now. And I don't want to be any of it. I asked for a raise, they didn't give it to me. Peace. I was on 6 weeks. I was in Chicago. You know, so it was like wasting no time. You know, like, so really what it is like, are you excited by it? Is it like, you know, is it what you think about when you wake up in the morning? Is there something, Kathy had said it, like, does it get you out of bed? You know, that's really like, you know, what I look for in what drives me to do what it is I do.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you guys for showing up. I appreciate it. And my final request is ask yourself the question is, you know, what's going to help you jump out of bed in the morning? And if you're not doing it, step into that fear. Thank you.